My friend, there are moments in life when heaven begins to whisper your name, when the unseen world starts to move on your behalf. And though you may not see it yet, there are angels working behind the scenes, preparing, praying, and presenting your name before the throne of God. Today, I want to tell you something powerful. The prayer that was once delayed has finally been answered. Heaven has always heard you. From the very first moment your heart whispered a prayer for love, from the nights you felt unseen and wondered if God had forgotten your name, heaven was already listening. The angels recorded every tear, every sigh, every unspoken word you sent upward. Sometimes it seemed as though nothing was changing, as though your prayers were vanishing into the silence, but silence is never proof of absence. Silence in the kingdom of God, often the sound of preparation. You were asking for something sacred, something that carries eternal weight. A covenant built not on fleeting emotion, but on divine purpose. Such things are never rushed. They are molded in heaven's workshop, refined by fire, and released only in perfect time. There were moments you questioned if love was meant for you at all. The world around you seemed to move on. People marrying, finding their partners, building lives, while you stood still, holding on to a promise you could not yet see. You looked up at the sky and said, "Lord, when will it be my turn?" And heaven whispered back, "Be still, I heard you." What you didn't know was that while you were waiting, angels were moving. They carried your prayers before the throne of grace. They stood in the presence of the Almighty, speaking your name in the courts of heaven. You were not forgotten. You were being interceded for by the very messengers of God. Each time you chose faith over bitterness, heaven rejoiced. Each time you prayed for others while still waiting for your own breakthrough, heaven saw your purity. Every act of obedience, every sacrifice, every time you trusted when you didn't understand, it all built an altar before God. The delay was not punishment, it was preparation for a blessing that could only be handled by a mature heart. God saw the hidden work within you, the growth, the surrender, the quiet strength. When you cried and still said, "Lord, I trust you," you were passing the test that qualified you for a heavenly promise. There are things angels know about timing that humans do not. They move according to divine order, and their movements often align with seasons, not seconds. You may have prayed last year, but the answer required alignment, a change in hearts, places, and purposes. Sometimes heaven waits until both lives are in harmony with God's will. The angels were never still. They were positioning, protecting, and preparing. They guarded your heart from counterfeits that looked right, but were not ordained. They blocked connections that would have led to heartbreak and pulled you back when your emotions wanted to rush ahead. You thought rejection was pain, but it was protection wrapped in disguise. Heaven has a rhythm, and your prayer became part of that rhythm. The moment you prayed, heaven marked the time. The angels began their assignment, not just to bring someone into your life, but to bring the right one, the one who matches your soul and destiny. In the unseen realm, they carried messages, stirred hearts, and watched over the path that would one day lead you into divine union. You may not have seen them, but you felt their presence in moments when peace suddenly came over your heart, when you knew deep inside that something greater was being orchestrated beyond your understanding. The truth is, God never ignores the cry of a sincere heart. He bottles every tear, He hears every word, and He remembers every promise. You are not the forgotten one, you are the chosen one being prepared for a sacred covenant. Heaven heard your cry long ago, and though the answer tarried, it was sealed from the beginning. Angels asked God concerning your heart's desire, and He smiled, saying, "In my time." That time, child of God, is now drawing near. The prayers you thought vanished have been stored in heaven's chambers, waiting for the appointed hour to be released as divine manifestation. Waiting has never been easy for the human heart. It stretches faith, tests patience, and exposes the deepest desires within us. Yet what you thought was a painful pause was, in truth, a sacred process. God was not withholding a blessing from you. He was shaping you into the kind of person who could carry it well. The waiting season has always been the refining season, a divine classroom where heaven teaches the lessons you cannot learn in comfort. Every unanswered prayer, every delay, every lonely moment served a purpose far greater than you could see. You were being refined, not forgotten. When you prayed for love, God looked not only at what you wanted, but at what you were becoming. He knew that marriage is not simply about two people coming together, but two purposes intertwining under His will. Before He could bring you into covenant, He had to prepare your heart to love as He loves, to forgive quickly, to trust deeply, to endure patiently, and to walk in humility. Waiting burned away impatience. It taught you to depend on Him rather than the promise. Purified your motives so that when His blessing came, you would not idolize the gift, but honor the giver. The refining fire of waiting reveals what lies beneath the surface. It brings hidden wounds to light, exposes insecurities, and forces you to confront what needs healing. Many times you felt broken during this season, but that brokenness was holy. God was mending you from the inside out, restoring areas that pain had once closed off. You learned to stand in faith when nothing made sense, to worship when you felt weary, and to love even when love seemed absent. Heaven was not ignoring you, it was rebuilding you. While you waited, God was working behind the scenes in ways you couldn't perceive. He was maturing your emotions, deepening your spiritual roots, and removing attachments that couldn't go with you into your future. Some people left your life not because they were bad, but because they weren't aligned with your destiny. Each goodbye was part of heaven's design to make space for what was coming. You may have wept when they walked away, but one day you will understand that their absence created room for divine presence. In the refining season, the enemy often whispers lies, telling you that you're forgotten, that everyone else is blessed except you, that maybe your faith has failed. But the truth is, this waiting period was evidence of God's love, not His neglect. He trusted you enough to take you through the fire, knowing that you would emerge pure, steady, and strong. The very fact that you endured the wait proves your faith has been tested and found genuine. Gold is not pure until it's tried by fire, and love shaped by waiting carries a beauty the world cannot replicate. You began to see things differently, started to pray less for quick answers and more for lasting purpose. You asked God to make you ready, not just to make things happen. That's when the transformation deepened. Heaven watched as your prayers matured. Your perspective shifted from why me to prepare me. The refining season taught you surrender. It taught you that what is meant for you will never pass you by when you're walking in obedience to God's will. And though it felt like nothing was happening, everything was. Each moment of waiting became a building block for the love story heaven was crafting. God wasn't silent, He was strategic. He was protecting you from premature connections and aligning you with promises that would last. The wait was not wasted, it was holy preparation. When you step into what He's been preparing for you, you will look back and thank Him for every delay that became your deliverance, for every waiting season that purified your heart until it was ready to receive heaven's best. There are moments when the natural world feels still, yet in the unseen realm, an entire army of angels is at work. While you have walked through uncertainty and loneliness, angels have been quietly guiding the path of your destiny. They have stood guard over your life, shielding you from unseen dangers and orchestrating divine meetings that only heaven could design. Your love story is not just a matter of chance. It is a heavenly assignment, and angels have been commissioned to ensure it unfolds according to the perfect will of God. Before you even realized it, heaven's messengers were sent to prepare the ground beneath your feet. They went before you into places you hadn't yet stepped, clearing obstacles that would have delayed your destiny. They stood beside you when heartbreak tried to crush your faith, whispering peace to your soul, reminding you that God was still writing your story. Many of the moments you called coincidences were truth, divine interventions carried out by angelic hands. Every time you were spared from settling for less, every time your spirit was stirred to walk away from what didn't feel right, it was because angels were protecting the covenant God had already chosen for you. Heaven takes love seriously. God's design for marriage is sacred, and because of that, He appoints angels to guard it. They are not just silent observers, they are active participants in heaven's plan for your union. Some of the delays you experienced were not denials, but divine defenses. Angels were intercepting distractions, blocking counterfeits, and ensuring that both you and your future spouse were being positioned correctly. They saw what you could not see. The intentions of hearts, the traps of the enemy, the timing of God, and they intervened with precision. You may not have heard their voices, but you've felt their presence in moments of peace that made no sense, in the sudden calm after tears, in the assurance that somehow everything would work out. Those were not your thoughts alone. They were divine whispers, messages of hope sent from heaven to remind you that you are never alone. Angels walk with those who walk by faith. They respond to prayers spoken in sincerity and carry them before the throne with reverence. Every time you prayed, Lord, let your will be done, angels took that prayer as a command to act in alignment with God's timing. They have been working on both sides of your story, over your life and over the life of the one chosen for you. While you've been growing in faith, they've been stirring the heart of the other person, guiding them away from confusion and toward clarity. Angels do not manipulate, they illuminate. They reveal truth, bring conviction, and prepare hearts to recognize what God has ordained. Somewhere right now, the one meant for you is feeling that pull, that divine nudge, that sense of readiness. And it is not by accident, it is by angelic appointment. Angels rejoice when God's children walk into destiny, and they mourn when we settle for less. That is why they've been so protective of you. They know what heaven has planned. They will not rest until you stand within the will of God. Every prayer you prayed for guidance invited them to move. Every word of faith gave them permission to act. When you forgave, when you chose to wait, when you decided to trust again, those were signals to heaven that you were still aligned, and angels responded with renewed strength on your behalf. Is why you must never underestimate the spiritual dimension of your love story. It is not only emotional or physical, it is divine. Angels have been guarding it, guiding it, and ensuring that when the right moment arrives, nothing will stand in the way. You have not been forgotten, and you have not been fighting alone. The same angels who once carried your prayers are now preparing to carry your answer, watching over the union that heaven itself has written into your destiny. There comes a time in every divine love story when heaven begins to move upon the heart of the one chosen for you. What once seemed distant and uncertain begins to awaken under the touch of God's Spirit. For so long, it may have felt like they were unaware, distracted by the noise of life, or drawn into paths that had nothing to do with you. Yet heaven never lost sight of them. While you were praying, God was working. While you were growing in faith, He was gently